dusk, and just this massive roaring of the ballast coming out of their tanks and bubbling water, and there it was, not far 200 feet away. Freddie Pearson yelled out of the frying pan into the fire, "They're bloody Jerrys." And next thing, a voice, a real Yank voice, "Hi, can any of you guys catch?" And bang, a line comes snaking over, fired out of a gun, which we caught, tied it to the raft and was pulled into the side. And they didn't have to get in the water. We all had enough to clamber aboard and help each other to get aboard the submarine.
Together, the 4 submarines had picked up 159 men. On the Pampanito and the Sealion, film was also taken below decks during the 4-day journey to Saipan. Rescuing the men was one thing, keeping them alive was another. Roy Williams, the pharmacist mate on the Sealion, was caring for over 50 men.
Back in my training somewhere, I knew that we couldn't feed them too fast. We had to take it real slow on food, and so that was the hardest part, to give them just a little soup each day and a little water. It was tough when those people, they were starving.
I see one guy come down the forward battery hatch, and he came down under his own power pretty well, and we had some chow out on the table, and they just opened a can of butter, and if you've ever seen canned US Navy butter, it's a real sight, because it was all completely green, and you have to, and he took one look at that and just whoop. But they were a very, very, very tough shape, rough shape, and the only thing I could say is anything and everything that could have been done for him in this boat was done for him by the crew, the officers, the pharmacist mate, everybody.
Even the second day, you could see a change in their overall mental attitude. They could see and they could ask questions, and they would ask about solid food, and we said, well, we're going to be in Saipan soon, and where we'll have a team of real doctors to look you over and determine whether you can have solid food or not. In my own mind, we helped them, but they did it themselves. The determination was still there.
One guy, I remember, apparently didn't have a life jacket, and he was treading water. And we got him in a bunk, and he's still treading water. And he wouldn't stop, and Doc worked with him and tried to talk to him and get him to understand that he didn't have to tread water anymore. And the poor guy, he finally apparently heard Doc, and he stopped treading water, and he died almost at that moment. He was the first one that we buried at sea.
The 4 we lost on the way in were just too far gone. And the last fellow that I worked on, I did try to save him with blood plasma, but his veins had deteriorated to the point they wouldn't hold a needle.
We sewed him up in a mattress cover and put a 4-inch shell in there so they would definitely go to the bottom. And the captain read the Burial at Sea service from the Bible, and we slipped him off the side. When we got close to Saipan, somebody there decided to send a doctor out in a destroyer, and they transferred this doctor aboard. Unfortunately, he wasn't much help, as the guy was drunk when he came aboard, I think, and he walked through and looked at these fellas and patted them and turned it back to Doc Williams. That was an unworthy moment. I felt ashamed that the Navy would send out such a man.
You'd be surprised what 4 days did for him. You know, new clothing, food, and getting cleaned. They were a different bunch of men when they got off in Saipan.
Of course, those are all survivors there eating the ice cream, mugging the camera. We'd done what we could, and now it was up to the people at the hospital to get them all back on their feet. There they go.
When we landed in Saipan, we was getting pretty strong then. And they took us to this camp. We're in tents up on the mountains there, and we slept on the bed for a while. Then we couldn't get used to sleeping on a bed, so we slept on the floor.
The ground rocked for the first 3 days. It was just the sensation of being out of water after so long. But apart from that, well, we were tended to by American nurses, and we hadn't had anything to do with white girls for that many years. It was just as if you were in God's hands. It was beautiful. There were some lovely girls amongst them.
After all that they'd endured, the survivors finally were to sail home, the British via Pearl Harbor and the United States. Many would receive a hero's welcome. While recovering, the men had been providing intelligence officers with a wealth of information, including the location of airfields and ammunition dumps, defensive positions, and the sites of POW camps. Weeks later, newspapers around the world would reveal for the first time the horrors of the Death Railway and of the convoy attack and dramatic rescue. Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, wanted to personally greet the survivors. He insisted that if the U.S. Navy had known that prisoners were being transported, the convoy would not have been attacked.
He gave us a lovely speech and said, shook hands with it all and said, brilliant, wonderful. And he said, we'll get these bastards, these Japs, don't worry, we'll beat them.
The British survivors spent 4 days relaxing in Hawaii. They were invited to cocktail parties and on sightseeing tours. However, guards accompanied them everywhere, and they were ordered not to talk about their experiences in captivity. "54 years after their dramatic rescue, Wilf and Ray have arrived in Albuquerque, New Mexico to meet the men they owe their lives to at a special reunion.
This has been the one and only time possibly I'll meet any of the submariners that were involved in those days and we were involved with. It means a heck of a lot to me.
Well, when you meet these guys, they'll really make you welcome.
Yep.
As I said, I met them in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was unbelievable, as though we was buddies for life, you know.
Each year, veterans of the Pacific Campaign gather from across America to remember old times and lost friends.
One of the survivors about how...
Barney, how you doing? Nice day. Yeah. Hey, good to see you, buddy. Joe.
Good to see you, pal.
Remember the doc?
Hey, Doc.
Oh, I talked to Barney.
Never forgot you.
Yeah. We never forgot you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
Man,
It's lovely to meet you.
you're the finest thing that
I'll
happened.
introduce myself. I'm a mate of Will's. It's Queenfish picked me up.
Oh, Queenfish. Oh, yeah.
Good luck
Wonderful.
That's probably you right out there.
And that, you said that